A trio of North American champions were crowned midweek. MLS is now in the stretch run, and the coaching carousel is hotting up. And overseas, who needs a win more? Is it Eric Ten Hag and United, or Ange Postecoglou and the Spurs? That and more here on Friday's Morning Kickaround. Morning. We made it to Friday, the very first week of the show. Welcome in Morning Kickaround up from the lower leagues. My name is Robert Kerr, and I'm proud to be joined by the man to the right of me, Mr. Jason Davis. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm glad you got that right. Like, I'm on your right, but technically it would be like your left if you're looking at the screen, Robert. Is that right? Do I have that correct? Am I confused? I'm confused. Let's move on. Let's continue.
While you were to the right of me, you're looking good. What's that kit you're wearing? I think I know that club.
Yeah, Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I feel like this is an opportunity, morning kick around, for me to show off my gear again, since we're doing a video show 3 times a week. I've got a whole rack of jerseys just to my left. You can't see it, but it's a collection I'm very proud of. Lots of interesting kits, not just the normal sort of boring. I got an Arsenal and I got a. No, I've got some interesting kits. This is Minneapolis City is a. I don't know what you're showing off there. You're going to tell me what that is. But Minneapolis City is a team in USL League Two. Well, that they have an entry in USL League Two. I think they're doing other things as well in Minneapolis. Very cool little club. Who doesn't love a black bird and a big wing on a jersey? Come on, that's great. Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah, I remember when they came out with that. That is a very cool and unique, pretty jersey. But you ask about my shirt. This is my staff polo for Oakland County FC, also in USL2. So Summer League Soccer represented pretty big here on Morning Kick Around.
There you
Yeah,
go.
this is when I'm in the booth doing my commentary. This is one of the shirts that I wear, doing shows and doing commentary. I'm a non-league Tom Rennie over here.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's you got to start somewhere. And non-league is great. Support your local club. We say that. That's one of the things we say, right? We putting that in the retinue. Support your local club, whatever league they're in, whatever level they're playing.
Yeah, here on the show, I think our motto is growing into what do we say? Talking the world's game from everyone's favorite country.
Yeah,
Making it all about us.
Talking about everybody. Yeah, talking about the world's favorite game from everyone's favorite country, something like that. Yeah, and make it about us. We like to make it about us. We're going to try to do that today. What do we got coming up on the show today? I mean, do we want to get into this? We ready?
Well, before we jump into our long balls, let's throw up our contact information. If you want to write in a question, comment, or concerns, give us a message at morningkickaround@gmail.com. And if you want to hit us up on the socials, the ones we have up and running so far, Kickaround on the X and on the Instagram.
Is this where you also tell people to hit subscribe on the channel for Morning Kick Around on the YouTube? Please do that. That would help us out a lot. I think we're slowly creeping up. Only 3 shows, over 100 subscribers. Let's go, people. Join up and tell a friend. That's a big deal. Tell somebody in soccer that this show exists, because that's the only way we get our name out there.
Yes, indeedly do. Let's go into today's long balls. All right, long ball number 1 here on Friday morning. Midweek, a trio of North American champions were crowned. Arguably the biggest of the 3, the U.S. Open Cup final. Los Angeles Football Club beat Sporting KC. It was an exciting game, huge crowd, lots of passion on display, and legendary journeyman Kai Kamara with maybe the highlight of the night after the game as well.
Yeah, he did. He said some things. I do want to mention, I think Mateusz Bogusz was probably offside, and Sporting fans can be a little upset about that. But yes, and Olivier Giroud gets his first goal. But you're talking about Kai Kamara. And on Wednesday's show, we did talk about whether or not Major League Soccer had killed the Open Cup with their weird decisions about the tournament this year. And Kai talked eloquently about that. We got a clip of him. Let's hear from Kai Kamara.
And if I could just follow up with that, considering your experience in MLS, you're now two-time Open Cup winner as well. How important is it for MLS to be a part of this tournament? Does that mean anything for you moving forward? I mean, can you see any reason why MLS shouldn't be a part of it?
Don was here. I saw him. He was on the podium. He gave me a medal. So let's get him in here and make sure that he don't take MLS away from this. Is that what he's doing? Oh, why are you asking me that then? No, Don better not take this away. Like this is amazing. This is American soccer right here. Listen, last I'll say, we go through the systems of everything that's happened. They told us to go to school, play soccer in school, and go to college and play soccer in college and get drafted and go through the system. And that's what we've done. That's why I give so much credit to Chris Wondolowski, because we've done the same things. And that's the American dream that we wanted to do. And we made it here. So you can't take away from our history, and that's just my opinion. Don't take away from our history. That's our history. A lot of teams in the second division or whatever, third or amateur are looking forward to the US Open Cup, or we can rename it. That's fine. But I don't even think Lamar Hunt's going to be happy about that, wherever he's at. So yeah, please don't take it away.
All right. So there's Kai.
Yeah, I love the fact that such a prominent player and players in general are sharing that sentiment, because I know we talked about it previously that lots of people's favorite memories of American soccer, and it's a galvanizing thing to play in this tournament. I'm really glad that he used that platform to air those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, the man's 40 years old, so let's give him credit for that too. As somebody who's a week away from a birthday, and I'm a little bit older than Kai, just a little bit older than Kai, but at least he reps for the guys in their 40s. Let's just say that. The thing there that's also interesting to me, beyond sort of the MLS should be in the Open Cup part of it, and name checking Don Garber. He didn't say, "Hey Don, you did something bad. You're an evil man." But name checking Don Garber is definitely a move. And maybe if you haven't been around as long as Kai Kamara, you don't do that. I think that's interesting. But he's also identifying the pathway that he took. And he talked about Chris Wondolowski. And that's not the first time in that post-game press conference that he mentioned the path that he followed, that he was, born in Sierra Leone, moved to the United States, high school soccer, college soccer, gets drafted. That is not the standard path anymore that players follow, American players follow. And it's a league that has changed complexion so much since Kai Kamara came into it. I'm not going to sit here and cry over what MLS used to be, because I do think progress is inevitable, and I do think we are witnessing progress for Major League Soccer, Robert. It's the stadiums, it's the bigger salaries, it's the higher profile things happening, more professionalism across the board, all of that. But there's an argument, and I think some people in my age bracket would agree with this. There's an argument that MLS was more special in some ways when it was more accessible, when we had a lot of players like Kai Kamara who did not have a big club coming after them when they were 16, 17 years old, weren't getting a chance to go abroad. Their path was, I want to play soccer for a living. MLS is the only option I have. And because they weren't multimillionaires many times over, the way a lot of guys are now, they were more our people. It felt like people we could see down at the grocery store were playing soccer for us in America. That was kind of cool.
The middle-aged man MLS player is fading out in the sense of the Bill Withers, the guy that could be the dad down the street, not as apparent in the league. Because I never said that, but I had friends that called him the old dad midfielders, just the workman-like guy. You never notice the thing he does, but he is there in and game out, just chugging along.
Yeah, but that makes Kai more impressive. He's scoring goals. You're talking about guys like Jeff Lorenowitz and Dax McCarty and those kind of guys. And I love those guys. But Kai can still get up there. He can still leap at 40.
Yeah, when I went to the Leagues Cup final, I wasn't quite sure if the Columbus fans were more nervous about Olivier Giroud scoring a late goal, or if it was Kai Kamara when he changed into the game. And both played a part. And we shouldn't go into it too far, but one thing to consider is Kai Kamara and MLS. What do you call it? A Mount Rushmore. Is Kai Kamara becoming a Mount Rushmore?
No,
in a sense.
longevity is certainly admirable, and he's approach. I mean, he's now a guy. He's not going to get to Chris Wondolowski's record. I just don't think that's going to happen. But just to be in that conversation, have the possibility, speaks a lot to what Kai Kamara has meant to the clubs he's played for. And he's played for a lot of clubs, so there's something there too that maybe we don't want to unpack. As gregarious and as great those comments were, Kai Kamara has been known to be a little bit of a locker room malcontent on occasion. That's not me saying that those things have
11,
happened.
I think 11 teams would
Yeah.
say that.
He did make a joke that I appreciated before we move on from the Open Cup and Kai. Somebody said, what did it feel like to score against your former team? And he said, I think every goal I score is against a former team, which is pretty good from Kai Kamara. Yeah.
Yeah, the second championship on the docket from midweek, Campeones Cup. I got a little stick for us not highlighting it on Wednesday. Columbus took on Club America. Very exciting game. Lots of intensity here, but it went to penalties with the Mexican Giants coming out victorious.
Yeah. The controversy here, I mean, look, a good game. Columbus displaying the problems with the approach that they bring to the table. I appreciate Wilfred Nancy. They've won things. I'm not going to criticize the man's approach, but you see the shape that they were in defensively when America got on the break and scored the goal. Obviously, Columbus gets theirs from the set piece later on to get back into it. But the controversy here is, of course, on Malti Amundson's penalty kick and the fact that Malagon came off the line for Club America. And, of course, this is the era of, keepers can't come off the line. And we have video and we're watching and everything. If you come off the line, we're retaking the kick. But apparently in this competition, the laws actually say, well, you don't retake the kick unless the goalkeeper coming off the line impacted the taker. But then that gets into a very subjective question.
That's a very, very dangerous subjectivity area, because it's like, did the guy leaping off the line kind of like make you a little nervous, tense up, and hit it off the crossbar like Edmondson did?
Absolutely. I mean, these guys are tuned in, and sometimes you're trying to read the keeper in order to take a penalty kick. I just don't think you can get into this idea of, like, we talked about trying to determine intent on fouls. If you go in recklessly, even if you didn't mean to hurt your opponent and you hurt your opponent, you should still be sent off. That you don't get a pass because, I didn't mean it. And that's the case here as well. Like, we don't know if Amundsen was thrown off, and he might say, no, I wasn't, but that could be subliminal. It could be subjective in a way that he doesn't even understand. So I understand the Crew fans upset, but let's just be honest. This is not the most important game they're going to play this year. It might not be the only final that they play in. They've already played in 2 finals this season. It might not be the last one. I think that they're going to be in the mix for an MLS Cup. This is going to be, and this is going to be a black eye on this team, despite the way that it ended.
One of the biggest changes probably in soccer over the last 20 years is the goalie on the line during penalties. If you look some of the big ones, like Brianna Scurry in 99, like 5 yards off her line. Pepe Reina in the 06 final when they came back into Milan, when he made the save, he was like 3 steps off his line.
Man. The old days were wild. They were like halfway to the taker before the penalty kick was taken. But yeah, that's not where we are now. There was a third one of these? A third championship game on Wednesday? What are you talking about?
The Canadian Championship, Vancouver Whitecaps beat Toronto. It was a 0-0 match with Vancouver coming out on top in Canada. America's hat is now championed by Vancouver.
Good for Vancouver, I guess. If they didn't score any goals and they went to penalties, it's not the winner of this game. It is a Champions Cup slot and all that, right? We know that that's part of this. So I guess good on Vancouver for earning that. I don't think anybody Vancouver. The best of the Canadian teams right now? Is that even? Yeah, I think that's probably true, but it's not like any of them are doing all that great in Major League Soccer right now. I think Vancouver is probably the best because they're in the best spot in the. Actually, let me look at the standings and make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn here. Toronto's in 8th, so they're in a playoff spot in the East, but only barely.
Just.
And then Vancouver's in 7th. They have 10 more points than Toronto, but they're in 7th, and Toronto's in 8th. That tells you how much stronger the West is this year. But yeah, Canadians doing Canadian things. Good for them.
The biggest impact I remember the Canadian Championship having, I think Vancouver a few years ago lost to a Canadian Premier League team,
Yes,
and
remember that.
the coach
Yeah.
lost his job over that.
Yeah.
Speaking of MLS coaches, long ball number 2, the MLS coaching carousel is hotting up, and one of the foremost writers in American soccer, Mr. Tom Bogert,
Mhm.
had quite a bit to say as far as the possible coaching openings.
Yeah, shout out to Tommy B, Tom Bogert, the mustachioed marauder, friend of mine. Love that guy. Give me smart these days. And also doing Soccer Wise as well with David Gass and Jordan Angeli, I think. Shout out to them. They're doing a similar thing to what we're doing. I actually was texting with Tom yesterday. Like, hey, got any tips? He's like, no. I just show up and do the show. Everybody else takes care of the hard stuff. But Tom is obviously writing. He's got all these sources. So this is the update on the MLS carousel in terms of coaches. He says Greg Berhalter is the leading candidate, a finalist perhaps for the Chicago job. It does take pains to point out that Berhalter has other options or is considering his options. Maybe he doesn't have them yet. Maybe he's just using that. I got some options. Give me more money, Chicago. He might want to hold out for a job in Europe, says Tom, which, I'm not the biggest Greg basher on the planet, but I find it difficult to imagine Greg Berhalter's got something decent in Europe lined up at this point based on his resume. This would be a job where he's both coach and general manager, which is a lot in MLS these days. And I think very important for Chicago Fire people, Frank Klopas would remain with the team because Frank Klopas, you can't get rid of Frank Klopas. He's got to be there somewhere. Like
of all the turmoil and turnover and the bad blood and misunderstandings and not getting along, Frank Klopas is the one universally liked person there.
I mean, yeah, it's hard not to like Frankie Klopas. I'll just say that. Beyond that, Peter Luccin, perhaps getting the permanent post in Dallas after taking over there. They've been playing some better soccer. No decision has been made on a contract or a contract agreed with Dallas going through the final stages of their coaching search, but the sources are confident that he'll get the job. Or he is the top choice, rather, at this point. It'd be a very Dallas thing to do, to give him the job, because that's what Dallas does. They don't go international. They're not like shaking the bushes to find the next talented young coach. You could argue that they have kind of done that, but it's almost been more of circumstantial than anything else. I don't think it's a bad option, but it just isn't sexy in the way that, maybe clubs in Major League Soccer, fans of clubs in Major League Soccer want their teams to turn. They want their teams to go and try to get the biggest name possible, and that's not where Dallas is.
As far as Dallas, what's the general consensus of what they need? I know they had a little bit of success and they seem to be on the boil and then they go very cold. What is the general consensus of what Dallas needs to become a power?
I mean, spending consistently. I mean, they've spent a little bit more recently, but spending consistently. Obviously, they had all that talent come out of the academy. It felt like they caught lightning in a bottle a little bit on that front. And then do they have the ability to keep that up? Trusting that you're constantly going to get MLS star level talent, not just like good enough to be on the roster to sign to a contract, but guys who are going to help you win a championship. That feels like a tough ask for the Dallas Academy. So I actually at this point I don't know. They're going to put a roof on their building. That they definitely need that. You know how hot it is in Frisco in the summertime.
I can only imagine. I'm about 500 miles north, and it gets crazy hot here in the summer. So I can only imagine what the scorched earth it is in Dallas on a Saturday afternoon.
So maybe Dallas has their coach. St. Louis, obviously making a choice in firing Bradley Carnell, their first ever coach. John Hackworth is the interim head coach there right now. And according to Tom, Danny Cruz, he doesn't have a list, and I don't know if Danny Cruz is the leading candidate, but Danny Cruz is a candidate. Danny Cruz is the head coach of Louisville City of the USL Championship. He's been in that job since 2021. He took that job, or he became the head coach after being the technical director previously in Louisville because John Hackworth left Louisville. So I find it fascinating that there's a possibility Danny Cruz could replace John Hackworth again in a head coaching job, this time in Major League Soccer. I think it's also interesting, and we don't have the time to expand on it today, Robert, but this being an American soccer show, there is a question of, does Major League Soccer do a good enough job giving real opportunities to USL Championship coaches who have proven that they can win at that level. This is an issue with players as well. Why is there not more of a market for USL Championship players coming up to Major League Soccer? You know, we're constantly having those debates about how good is USL compared to Major League Soccer. We look at the results in the Open Cup, and the people who love lower division soccer and who are not fans of the MLS business model or the way MLS operates would say USL is not it's as good as MLS in terms of the quality. I think that's probably not right for the most part. But I think coaching is a little bit easier in terms of you don't have to have top level experience to level up the way that maybe a player does into Major League Soccer. So why wouldn't a Danny Cruz, why wouldn't some of these other USL coaches who have had success get an opportunity to coach in that league?
Having a self-sustaining ecosystem of players, coaches, and staffs is definitely something that is needed. There's kind of obviously with a lot of things with American soccer is fractured. There's an invisible ceiling. If USL Championship players excel, they typically would go overseas more likely than to move up to MLS.
In terms of players, we have seen RSL grab a couple of talented young players from the USL and bring them in. Diego Luna being one of them, obviously. I think it's Fidel Barajas, the Charleston Battery Mexican-American winger, is now a part of that RSL team as well. So, they're doing the work and taking a look and try, but those are young players, right? Those are players with potential who maybe they think of as assets down the line, that kind of stuff. Whether or not there's a real market. For example, we've got a new USL Championship all-time single-season goal-scoring champion. Okay, Nick Markovic, something like that. He's at Charleston too, right?
Correct.
Is that a player? He's 25, 26 years old. Is that a player anybody in MLS would take a look at, or do those goals not translate for them? And we've had a couple. Christian Ramirez was a star at the USL level, or the whatever that league was back then. There were a couple of guys like that, but it seems like MLS chooses not to engage with the USL, maybe because if you pretend they don't exist, they'll go away.
That might be a big part of it. And I've also heard a lot of the standout players are internationals, and MLS may not want to take that risk.
That's a good point.
On an international player as well if they have limited international spots.
That's right. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, move on. Big weekend matches. I think we got to touch on this. Real Madrid, the Madrid Derby, taking on Atletico Madrid Sunday afternoon.
Robert, I'm gonna have to do this. I'm not trying to. I'm sorry, but you have to say Atletico. You can't say Atletico. People will come down on you because there's no H in there. Robert, it's not. And I've adopted this team. This is my team now in Spain. After I spent a couple weeks in Spain this summer, now I'm suddenly an Atleti fan.
You did a foreign exchange in the summer, and now you're telling me how to say Spanish things.
I am.
Okay, I see how it is. I'm sure. How many times did you chastise?
Well, I mean,
for Barcelona.
Oh, also, hablo español. Like I actually do speak some Spanish, so I'm not coming at this like some gringo who has no Spanish.
That's that athletic team from Madrid, right?
That's right. Do you know about Diego Simeone? He's their coach.
He's a real tough guy there. The man in black, a man in black that I once liked, Johnny Cash.
Oh, we were going to talk about this game. I could have worn my Johnny Cash Nashville shirt. I think I've already worn that on this show this week, maybe. Atleti, Real Madrid, obviously a massive game. Not the biggest rivalry match in Spain because that remains Real Madrid, Barcelona, and El Clásico. But there are some things here. I think interesting that Kylian Mbappe is missing this game with an injury, a thigh injury. He's out. You have Jude Bellingham, obviously incredible season last year, has already had an injury this season. He is going to be available for this game. What does that look like? Conor Gallagher, formerly of Chelsea, has actually started very well at Atleti. I think it surprises some people, Robert, that Conor Gallagher has adapted to La Liga so well. But that's looking good for Diego Simeone. There's a lot of storylines here. This is number 2 and number 3 in the standings right now behind Barcelona. So they want to get 3 points off a potential rival for things and close the gap with Barcelona if possible.
Yeah, Atleti becoming a home for a couple castaway English players is kind of interesting. Like I never thought that Trippier would turn into what he was, but Atleti really springboarded him to a whole nother level there for a while. And I'm not surprised, Conor Gallagher. I always thought he was a little bit harshly done by.
It's the hair. The hair puts people off. They don't like Conor Gallagher's look. They're like, that's a douchey guy. I don't like him. I think it's probably what it is.
He does not have the appearance of someone I would root for, says English
That may be
people.
what it is. I also throw in another storyline before we move on to other big games. Julian Alvarez. He was the big offseason signing for Atleti. He's the guy supposed to score goals. Obviously, he leaves Manchester City, where all they do is win trophies. Of course, he wasn't the guy there. He now has the chance to be the guy. Scored a big goal midweek against Celta Vigo, 90th minute. They needed that victory, right? That would have been Celta Vigo's having a good start to the season, but that would have been a tough 3 points to miss out on if you do want to be able to keep up with Real Madrid and Barcelona. So I think that's also a storyline here. What is Julian Alvarez's role in this game?
Moving to Germany, the biggest game there, Bayern Munich versus Leverkusen, the perennial lords of Germany. Bayern didn't win last year, and it was Leverkusen who were undefeated. Strangely enough, have already lost a game this season, but they take on each other. And if Leverkusen comes out with the W, they tie Bayern at the top early in the season.
Yeah, look, Bayern has been unstoppable so far. Right? It's so weird to say Bayern is back. Like what? Like how is that even a thing? Like how can Bayern ever not be back or not be good enough that they need to come back? But of course, as you said, they didn't win last year. They finished third. Bayern Munich finished third, and that's like, oh my god. But you know, this is a very, very good team. I'm mildly surprised that Vincent Kompany has adapted as well as he has to the job. But then again, he does have the talent there. It's just a matter of making it all work together. They've added some people. Michael Elise has fit right in with Bayern Munich and looks very good.
Happy for Elise. I mean, what a come up. Crystal Palace to Bayern. Come on.
I know. Incredible. Obviously, Harry Kane, best goal scorer in the world for some people's money. Thomas Mueller has said this week he thinks Harry Kane is probably the best finisher he's played with at Bayern Munich. And obviously, Thomas Mueller's been there for, 50 years or whatever it is at this point. So he would know. And then Leverkusen remains Leverkusen, right? That last season was so magical that they should not be judged against that season. They're going to be in this hunt, maybe for the title. Definitely, they're going to be back in the Champions League spots. I think if they finish behind Bayern, it won't be any shame on Xabi Alonso. But they're still very, very good. We've seen it. They still play this incredibly interesting style of soccer where the team element, right, the organization it takes to play the way Bayer Leverkusen does, is interesting.
The final big game to touch on, we'll dig into it a little bit more, but just off the top of your head, Sunday afternoon, Premier League, Manchester United versus the Spurs. They've got an identical record. Who comes out on top on Sunday in England?
Yeah, I do think we need to dive into this one a little bit. Eric Ten Hag, especially off of what just happened in the Europa League, probably feeling a little down, but that's been the story. And it always feels like he finds a way to put lipstick on a pig. And there was a little bit of that. He plays both sides. We weren't good enough. Our mentality wasn't right, but most of the time our mentality is good. And man, if you watch that goal that they gave up against FC Twente to drop 2 points in the Europa League at home at Old Trafford, that's pretty bad soccer. So is that going to follow them into this match against Spurs? And then obviously for Spurs, they have the win in the Europa League, down a man after the sending off of Dragusin early in that game. Brendan Johnson gets on the score sheet. He's been a story for them because of the abuse he was getting, especially on Instagram. There are lots of things here. Postecoglou is my favorite guy to listen to talk. But is he going to be able to keep this energy up and keep them going? And I think they're probably better than their record, but that ultimately doesn't matter when you're at a place like Spurs and you've got to get results.
That is today's long balls. Looking ahead at the weekend, some big games coming up, and hang out with us. Coming up next, we're going to dig a little deeper in our hot topic. Today's hot topic for Friday, looking ahead at the weekend, Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur tied exactly on points, 2 wins, a draw, and 2 losses, sitting in 10th and 11th in the league. Who needs a win more here?
I think it's probably United, just to give away the game right at the top. Like, I could drag this out. I don't know. United's got this going on. Spurs have this going on. I think it's probably United. I think there's still a question as to whether or not Spurs is a good soccer team right now. I was reading yesterday a piece by an acquaintance, Kim McCauley, and she's a Spurs fan, and she was writing that very question. She was using that clip from man, I'm trying to remember who was it. I should have had this prepared. This is terrible, Jason. Good job. But basically the question is, or the Gennaro Gattuso. Do you remember when Gennaro Gattuso was in front of the media while he was coaching a team and he said,
Sometimes
maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. That is Spurs, right? They are, and I'm stealing from Kim because that's what she said. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. And a lot of that has to do with the way that Ange sets his team up. They are a kamikaze, all or nothing. It feels like they're riding the edge, like they're riding a bolt of lightning, through a hurricane. And, if they succeed, wow. If they don't, it's going to be disastrous. That feels like everything. And I can't imagine putting Spurs fans through this after just with their history and everything that they've kind of been. Are they going to be a big club? Are they not? You got to win trophies to be a big club, but they got all this money and they can push their weight around, but they're not in the elite club. They make a Champions League final, which felt like, an impossibility at one point in their history. But of course they didn't win it. And now here we are, 6 years later, and what are they?
I'm sure it's difficult to wrap your head around if you're a Spurs fan. Like, what are we? Tons of history, but the history is debatable. There's a history of coming close, but not quite getting there. And I think that a big question is, like, Postecoglou came in, guns a-blazing, who's a sensation, great with the media. Like you said, he's great to listen to, got great results. But really, in the calendar year of 2024, only a couple big results. I think the last result against a quote unquote really good or top team was a win back in March against Aston Villa. Like, a win against Manchester United would be a statement win for them for sure. And
I don't know. I don't know that it would. And that says a lot about where United is right now, doesn't it?
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, they're at the same level.
They're the same level in the league right now, and neither of them is where they want to be. I mean, we're 5 matches in, so let's not get ahead of ourselves and go, oh my God, the world is ending, the sky is falling, and I do think Spurs are probably better than where they are. I'm not sure that's the case with United, and so that means that this game could be a jumping off point, right? If Ten Hag can hold serve at home against Spurs, who I think, again, most people think of as a pretty decent team, maybe still trying to figure some stuff out, then that would be huge. I think it probably matters more for United to win the game than it does for Spurs. If Spurs leaves Old Trafford with a point, they might be disappointed, depending on how the game plays out. But I think you would, if you were looking at your fixture list before the season started, you would go, all right, point at Old Trafford. That's the target. Right? And I'm sure you could reason out, well, this is not the best United team we've ever seen. This is a beatable United team. We should be targeting 3 points. Of course, you want 3 points. Nobody's going to say otherwise. But if you ended up with a single point, you would be okay with that result. On the other side of it, again, United's going to be at home. They're coming off the disappointment in the Europa League. They
that goal, oh my goodness.
Man.
The goal that they gave up. If I was a United fan, I would have no hair left on the top of my head, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that that is emblematic of sort of who United is right now. That it can be such a simple sort of moment, right? The break, and it's breakdowns all over the field. First of all, you're allowing a dribbler to beat 2 lines of defenders to even get into a position where once the ball is recovered by a pretty aggressive, not last ditch, but pretty aggressive tackle, it's a good tackle, but it shouldn't be necessary, right? And then the ball ends up on Christian Eriksen's foot. And what does he do? He turns into pressure, gives the ball back, and it's a goal. And Onana, oh my God, Onana, what are you doing?
Where's his positioning?
And all of those are just like, those are four different things. Well, a bunch of defenders get beat, or a bunch of players in defensive positions get beat. Then Eriksen, who you would normally trust on the ball, makes a mistake, gives a ball away, and then Onana is nowhere near where he should be in order to cut off the near post and force a very good shot to beat him far post.
Yeah, he did neither. He didn't cover the shot angle, but he didn't come out and force the striker to rush his attack. He had all the time to get all the way around the ball so he could get that left-footed strike in. I mean, he did neither. You got to one or the other, cover your angles for the shot or come pressure him, force a mistake.
Right, and we come off. So that's obviously in the Europa League. We come off of the 0-0 against Palace on the Saturday before, right? And Palace is obviously having a horrific start. They haven't won a game yet. And you have Lisandro Martinez in the news because he could have chopped somebody's feet off with that double-footed stomp. No,
yeah, that was wild.
I'm okay with that not being a red card, by the way. I get why that's not a red card, but it certainly is. Again, I don't know that I like blowing up one moment into everything's wrong at United, but there have been so many of those one moments that kind of feel like everything's wrong at United that it's hard to ignore it. So, yeah, I think it matters. I think if we ask this question, who needs it more, it's United. It absolutely isn't United, because I trust more that Spurs are a decent team, that Ange is going to get things right as they progress. And if you look at underlying numbers, if you look at expected goals conceded, those kind of things, Spurs is a better team than United across the board.
Both of these teams putting their fans in such an awkward position. Like we said, Spurs, on the cusp of something, but haven't gotten going. And then United, they're always like game to game. It's either like, we're back or the sky is falling. And
I know.
And then there's a lot of United supporters in my area where I live. I'm unfortunately friends with a lot of United guys, and they're always saying, fire Ten Hag as soon as like a bad thing happens. But it just accelerates the coach needs to be stable. And so, but if you're the one saying you got to fire him after each bad result, then you're leading to said instability. So it's like a bit of a treadmill there.
I think it's frustrating too for United fans because of the Ineos takeover of the football operations. There was this.
Also,
I mean, of course, you built it up. I mean, it felt like, oh, we have an actual smart business person who loves the club in charge. He's going to make good decisions and we'll be in a better place. And so, by the way, some of this, there's a lot of things that need to happen that can't happen immediately. And some of that is getting rid of the dead weight at United, figuring out what the transfer policy is going to be, being able to spend smart money rather than dumb money, where they've been spending dumb money for so long. But still, that felt like this transformative thing, and it hasn't brought the results. And Ten Hag kept the job despite that changeover in control at the club, which says that they honestly didn't have anybody else knocking on their door. Nobody better was picking up the phone to call United and saying, "Hey, I want that job."
Man,
which is scary. That's scary.
Yeah, I'm sure that doesn't fill anyone with any confidence. Should we call this the desperation derby?
It's pretty. Yeah. Again, I feel weird saying that Spurs is desperate, but I think I think yes, there's something to that, because neither of them is where they want to be. It has to kind of feel desperate.
I think that's that topic well and thoroughly discussed. Man United host Tottenham midday on Sunday. Hang on tight. Memory hole. We're going down there. Coming up next. All right, we've fallen down the memory hole, searching back in the memory, or maybe rehashing the memories of some teams, moments, or favorites from the past. And Tab Ramos kind of stirred up a memory of the past.
I remember Tab Ramos. What are you talking about? Okay, sorry.
American soccer legend Tab Ramos, kind of dug up the 2014 United States men's national team. He was on CBS Golazo expressing his feelings on which United States men's national team was the best.
So I think that 2014 team for me was the best team we've had. And I know I can go back to 94, and I think 94 was a very good team that we had too. And I know that people will say, well, 2002 made it to the quarterfinals. The 2002 team was very good, but they were losing 3-0 to Poland until South Korea scored against Portugal. They were out, right? So then they played Mexico in the next round. Okay, so you give credit for that. But the 2014 team, I mean, so they beat Ghana the first game, which you're supposed to win.
And we got Josie got hurt.
Josie got hurt.
He was our target striker. Then I had to play target, which is not my best position. I'm more of a withdrawn type forward.
We became a one-forward team with like 5 across the middle. Before we were a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
So it changed everything within. He got hurt in 10 minutes, right?
Exactly.
I mean, but that was like.
I'm going to pause it here, Robert. I mean, this is obviously a long interview. If you want to go watch Golazo and Tab, and I need to watch the entire thing, right? I want to watch. I love Tab Ramos. Had many chances over the years to talk to him. Obviously, as you said, an American soccer legend. And look, with Clint Dempsey there, I do think it's probably, look, this isn't a court of law. We're not talking about, this isn't some journalistic integrity question, but it's really kind of not. There's a built-in thing happening here because Tab Ramos is saying that the team that Clint Dempsey played on in 2014 at the World Cup was the best version of the U.S. men's national team. What is Clint Dempsey going to say? No, you're wrong. No, Tab, you're completely wrong, Tab. And there's obviously like those elements of circumstance, right? The ones that Tab brought up or Clint brought up there with Josie Altidore getting hurt in the first 10 minutes of that game against Ghana, the opening game of the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. Clint had scored in the first, 2 minutes of that game? I can picture that goal in my head.
I remember getting to my friend's house and turning it on at that moment when that happened.
I'm glad you didn't miss it. That would have been terrible if you missed it.
That was probably honestly at that point the most spectacular American goal I could have thought of at that moment.
It was incredible. And then obviously that game ends with John Brooks. John Brooks on a set piece, winning the game for the United States. Equalizing. Was it 2-1? And then we won that game. I'm sorry, we won that game.
Mm-hmm.
Beating Ghana, as Tab was saying.
The opening game of the 2014 World Cup. And I guess for like a little bit of context, this team, if you didn't watch this really got people excited to a whole nother level, I think, about the national team and seeing us, the United States, that is, really go against some quality teams and really take them on toe to toe and, produce some really fun moments.
So there's a couple things at work here. I mean, again, Tab brings up 2002 because that team made the deepest run in a World Cup in the modern era for the United States.
Yeah.
And then he kind of dings that team by saying, well, we lost to Poland 3-0. We needed help to get into the round of 16. Then we played a team we knew very well already in Mexico. So that's not the best team because of circumstances. And then he says 2014, well, that team didn't go as far, but we lost Josie Altidore to injury right away. We were obviously in an
that's one of the big. Is that one of the biggest what ifs in the, is Altidore getting hurt? One of the biggest what ifs for American soccer?
Yeah, probably. That was peak Josie Altidore. What was he? 23, 24 years old at that point. I mean, that was peak Josie Altidore. We were excited for that team. I think this gets into individual players and the talent that was available to Jurgen Klinsmann, as opposed to Bruce Arena in 2002 or obviously Greg Berhalter in 2022, which I will say on paper, talent-wise, is still the best team we've ever had. I'm not saying they played as the best team. I'm saying individual player for player. The talent was the highest in 2022. I still believe that. But I understand what Tab is saying, because he's not really saying that individually this was the best group. He's saying they played as a unit. They probably played the best kind of football that we've ever seen, or soccer that we've ever seen the United States play. I don't know. Is that how you took that?
I think so. Looking at the roster, I think that there's certainly some player positions where we'd snatch that in a moment. And if you allow me, the United States 2014 World Cup roster, can I read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Goalkeepers, really where it jumps out. Tim Howard, Brad Guzan, Nick Rimando.
Yeah, my kingdom for those three goalkeepers right now.
All
Right?
three of them would be the starter. I don't think there's much of a debate about that, is there?
I
Maybe Ramondo.
no, well,
I mean, he didn't.
I love Nick Raimondo, but I'm biased about Nick Raimondo. I'm on that my bias for Raimondo probably means I can't be fair to a Matt Turner, I guess. But again, we're talking about this moment. What do we've got? We've got a Matt Turner who's not playing games. So it feels like anybody who was playing regularly, and Tim Howard was the starter at Everton, Brad Guzan was the starter at Villa, and Nick Raimondo was the starter at RSL, would be an upgrade over what we got right now. So yeah, all three of them would start right now.
Defenders: DeMarcus Beasley, Matt Beasler, John Brooks, Jeff Cameron, Timmy Chandler, Omar Gonzalez, Fabian Johnson. Wow, there's some names coming up here. DeAndre Yedlin.
Yeah. So this group, I think DeMarcus Beasley was a fine left back. I think Anthony Robinson's a better left back than DeMarcus Beasley. And DeMarcus Beasley obviously didn't start as a left back in his career. So this was at a point when he had switched positions. Matt Beasler, a nice player in Major League Soccer, pretty good player. We know John Brooks was very young. Again, came on as a sub in that game, I think, and scored the winner. Jeff Cameron, that was the best version of Jeff Cameron, I think. Yeah. Timmy Chandler was a good player. He never really showed it for the national team. I do think it's tough because you have to go game for game and go back and look and say, okay, when was he good? When was he bad? I think probably people forget how good Omar Gonzalez was in 2014 because of what happened 3 years later in 2017 and obviously drifting away from the national team. But he was pretty good. I mean, thinking about it now, Omar Gonzalez, not better than Tim Ream, although, again, Tim Ream is now an MLS player and his career is winding down. Anybody else in that group? Chris Richards. Who else are we talking about? Cameron Carter-Vickers. Who am I missing? Austin Trusty, not even a national team starter or even a fixture now. I'm probably missing a center back or two that are available right now to Mauricio Pochettino. I don't know. I might take Omar at this point. And Fabian Johnson. Fabian Johnson was a very, very, very good soccer player at that point in his career and probably would walk into the U.S. men's national team right now.
Yeah, definitely. That was a name I did actually send down the memory hole. Fabian Johnson, quality player. Moving into the midfield, there's probably some names that the team would take now. A lot of players in their peak all at the same time. Kyle Beckerman, Alejandro Bedoya, Michael Bradley, Brad Davis, Mix Discarud, Julian Green. Julian Green's quite the name. Jermaine Jones and Graham Zusi.
Yeah, I mean, look, lots of us remember that as the World Cup where Klinsmann left Landon Donovan at home and took Julian Green. And I don't even like this. I don't even the petty thing to do would be to say, well, look at Julian Green's career since then. What has he done?
He scored some goals. Not
a ton for the national team. Not a ton, and he turned into a sort of a box to box, but not even really an attacking player at all in his career in Germany, playing at Greuther Fürth. Is that right? And he's in the second division, I think. And he's been mostly a second division player during his career. Nothing to sneeze at, but he wasn't what we thought he was going to be. I mean, he hasn't been what we thought he was going to be back in 2014. Discarud, that was still pretty early. It was at Rosenborg. Brad Davis, I love Brad Davis in MLS. Not sure he's a national team caliber player in the modern era. Michael Bradley had already moved to TFC, but was still very good. That was still pretty early in his TFC experience, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I loved Michael Bradley as a player. I think he's underrated by national team fans historically. That's a memory hole issue for me. Bedoya, Beckerman was a breakout kind of player at that World Cup. He kind of had Pablo Mastroeni 2002 vibes about him. But I don't know that you would put him in the team now as good as he was in Major League Soccer. Obviously, we know Jermaine Jones is probably an all-timer in terms of talent for the U.S. men's national team. And he hit one of the best goals we've ever seen in that tournament against Portugal. Yeah. If you compared it to our midfield now with McKennie, with Yunus Musa, if Tyler Adams was healthy, I know he's not, and it kind of feels weird to consider him because he's not. But Tyler Adams, look at El Torre, Johnny Cardoso, Gio Reyna obviously playing in midfield mostly recently for the national team. I don't think this midfield's better. I don't think it's better. man for man, but it certainly had more functionality across it. Because if you have Bradley and Jones, who struggled a little bit to play together, but you have Bradley and Jones, you have two very smart, very talented footballers, and that kind of trumps everything else.
World Cup 2014's forward class: Josie Altidore, Clint Dempsey, Aaron Johansson, and Chris Wondolowski. Some names there, buddy.
Yeah, man. Look, everybody loves Clint. I guess we already talked about his goal in the opener against Ghana. And Josie got hurt.
Right, way too soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot that he was already at Sunderland, which is obviously a disaster for him in terms of output. Not the experience that he wanted. Aaron Johansson, man, he had kind of burst onto the scene. I'm trying to place him in his moment. He was at AZ at that point.
Alkmaar.
Wondolowski, who misses the opportunity against Belgium, which will always dog him, unfortunately. I mean, it is one of those what ifs of American soccer history. Not just if Josie Altidore stays healthy in that tournament, but what if Chris Wondolowski scores against Belgium? We got played off the park by Belgium, though, right? To come back to what Tab said, absolutely played off the park by Belgium. And if not for Tim Howard, it would have been 4-5. I don't love that because you just don't know. But Tim Howard did make 18 saves or something ridiculous in that game. And I think that does push back against this notion that this is the best U.S. men's national team we've ever seen. Except that really it's like that could be the best, and they could get still whooped by Belgium, which had a ton of talent at the time. And there's just no other team that even measures up, even with the run in 2002. And it's really hard to make an argument about a team that 98 finished basically dead last at the World Cup, a team in 2006 got bounced in the group stage, had some nice moments, but got bounced in the group stage. 2010, there are some names on that list. If we went back and looked at the 2010 team, that would be like, wow, that player went to a World Cup. I kind of can't believe that player went to a World Cup. No offense. And then what? We missed a World Cup in 2022, which I again argue man for man is the most talented, but it doesn't mean that it's a better team. Maybe Tab is right. Maybe I've talked myself into this. Maybe Tab is right.
Yeah, he's not far off, to be fair. And to kind of tie a bow on it, which team produced the most memories? I mean, in 2014, Clint Dempsey produced that sick drag back opening goal in the early moments against Ghana. In the next game, Jermaine Jones produces, another top 3 all-time goal with the Rocket against Portugal, and then pushing Belgium to extra time, all top moments. How would you compare those big standout memories compared to the current team?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't really hang your hat on any particular moment for this U.S. I mean, Christian Pulisic putting his ability to procreate on the line is a memory. That's still in there.
Tim Weah's goal was good.
Tim Weah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. The way it ended against the Dutch puts a damper on the whole thing. Now, again, and the way it ended against Belgium shouldn't feel better, but because it went to extra time and because there was an opportunity to win it on the foot of Wondolowski, I think it probably gives us a rose-colored glasses view of how that tournament went relative to 2022.
Yeah.
There was just I guess there were some negative vibes around 2014 in certain places, but it feels like the negative vibes around 2022 were stronger. And obviously, after the fact, now we're all biased by what happened with Gio, right? And then obviously that sort of breaks during the tournament. We come out of the tournament, we find out Berhalter gets pulled into the investigation because of the rain. All of that has an impact on how we feel about a team. And because the World Cup only happens 4 years, these things are magnified in a way that I think is fascinating to think about. And you're not going to tell me that 2014 was a better team than 2002, because 2002 we beat Mexico 2-0 in a knockout game. And we played Germany to a basic standstill. And if not for Torsten freaking Frings, who knows what could have happened, right? To me, but I know I'm viewing that through nostalgia as much as I am through reality, Robert.
Tab Ramos sent us down the memory hole. Thanks for coming down there with us. Great debate on that. If you want to get a hold of the show, write us an email. Questions, comments, concerns, morningkickaround@gmail.com, and hit us up on the socials, Kickaround on X and Insta. And before we head on our way this morning and head into our Friday activities and the weekend, let's check out what kind of comments came in. We got a couple good ones. You threw one on the screen from Brooks Lambier. Wando missing that goal against Belgium, biggest what if as well. He took a lot of flack for that, but I do remember as the ball was dropping to Mr. Christopher Wondolowski, I was like, USA is going to steal this.
It's not as easy a chance as people remember, I think, because
there was a huge goalie bearing down on him.
There's the goalkeeper is coming at him, but there's also I think the height of I'm gonna have to go back and maybe I'm misremembering it.
It's harder than people remember.
Trying to give Wondolowski the benefit of the doubt. I think the height of the ball was difficult for him in that moment, but it kind of reminds me of the goal that Michael Bradley scored against Slovenia in 2010. Do you remember that? I think it was Josie with a knockdown and Michael Bradley kind of arrives and sort of bottom of the foots it into the goal, kind of sliding chance, bottom of the foot. It was a little bit like that for Wando, like where it landed, where the ball came across. And, obviously you have to be prepared. Wando made a career of being prepared for the ball to come across in Major League Soccer. It just let him down in that moment. And look, if you are going to go to a World Cup and you're going to be put on that stage, if your coach is trusting you to make a difference in a game, you have to finish that chance. You just do. I mean, I'm one of those people who wants to give Wando a little bit more grace because how great he was in MLS. But I understand why people are saying he should have scored. He absolutely should have scored that goal.
I think it gave people a moment of belief when that ball was floating and coming towards them. It got everyone's expectations up just nice. They were dreaming of success. Going back down into the comments, long
How
balls.
about this one? Can I throw this one up? Tab Ramos is the best soccer player that's ever shared a name with a soft drink. Is that true? Do we have to dive into the archives? Like, is there nobody named like Coca-Cola Jones or something? Because that'd be awesome.
A Fago flavor. A Josie.
You guys don't know about Mountain Dew Gonzalez? Like, you guys don't know about these guys?
Good shout out by Mike Thomas giving us the fact check. The Canadian team that beat Vancouver Whitecaps in the Canadian Championship, Hamilton Forge, of course.
Was it Hamilton Forge, or is he just naming a Canadian team? Mike, I'm going to need you to clarify that.
Was that the team that won? I knew it was a team out on the west.
I thought it was Hamilton.
Pacific?
I'm trying to remember my Canadian Premier League teams now. They don't always have the name of the town, right? I think it's not called Hamilton Forge. I think they're just Forge FC, right? They don't even use the Hamilton part. Now, okay. Now we're gonna do this live on the air. I'm gonna bring up the Canadian Premier League teams so we can learn them together. You ready, Robert? Do you think you can name any off the top of your head?
Canadian Premier League teams?
Yes.
Pacific FC.
Pacific FC, good one. Langford, British Columbia. Okay, go. What else?
And then we have, I can do Hamilton Forge.
I think Pacific beat Vancouver. I think that's the story. That's the one you're talking about. Pacific beat Vancouver. Okay, so who'd you then Forge FC out of Hamilton, Ontario. What else? They play at Tim Hortons Field, by the way, which I think is also a CFL venue. Is that right? Hamilton Tiger Cats?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, look at that.
And now that I'm on the spot, my Canadian teams are starting to evaporate. From my brain here.
Okay, I got them in front of you. In front of me. I cheated. I didn't know this existed. Atletico Ottawa? Is that a new team? Atletico, like and spelled the same way as Atletico Madrid. Atletico Ottawa, out of Ottawa, Ontario. Then you have Cavalry. I can't not Calvary. Cavalry from Foothills County. Foothills. Where is that? Is that?
It's in Canada.
No, I know.
Solidly in Canada.
Solidly in Alberta, that one. HFX Wanderers out of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Way over there on the East Coast. Valor FC. That team is from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Manitoba is the one that gets lost. I don't know where Manitoba is. I don't think.
It is like kind of the north of the Dakotas, I believe.
Okay, so that, and then to the west of that is Alberta,
Yes.
and then you get to British Columbia. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Am I missing one? Where's Saskatchewan? Now I'm confusing myself about Canadian provinces.
Saskatchewan is farther north, I believe.
Okay.
I just remember there being a weather pattern in Chicago called a Saskatchewan Screamer.
All I know, Robert, is you live Canada adjacent, and you don't know any more than I do.
That's the thing about that. That is the thing about Americanism and being right here. I live like 45 minutes away from Canada, and I haven't been in probably 25 years.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
And people don't even realize we get CBC on our local television here.
Wow.
And yeah, it still doesn't hit the radar.
All right, so Valor FC out of Winnipeg, Vancouver FC, another team out there that plays in British Columbia, and then York United FC. York United they play York is like a suburb of Toronto, right? Is that right? York, something like that. That's not even like Saskatchewan or Alberta. You should know about Toronto. You should know more.
I want to go to the one thing. I've never been to Toronto. I want to go. That's where my World Cup 26 destination is. I want to go to Toronto.
Toronto is fun. I went for an MLS Cup final. The second one that TFC was in against Seattle, not the first one. I missed the first one. I wasn't there for the first one. I was there for the second one. Yeah, it was awesome. I like Toronto a lot. Very cool city. Yeah. All right. Any other comments we want to highlight here on the show?
Steve likes our segment name Long Balls. He's saying Old Dad FC gets that.
Yeah, that's a reference to my Old Dad FC joke on the Best Soccer Show. So let's cross those streams. Shout out to Steve Storr, long time listener, friend, programs I've done. Great.
And I do think that winner of comment of the day has got to be the Tab Ramos, the best.
Yeah, best player named after a soft drink. We just have to check. We have to double check. I don't want to say that as if it's a fact when we haven't done the research. So, now I'm trying to think like honestly,
Pepsi Jones.
Yeah. What name could be? What other soft drinks? You know, I don't know. It feels like maybe there's some Latvian soft drink I don't know about, and a player's named after that. But then you have a question of like, is there any Latvian player who's better than Tab Ramos in the history of Latvian football? Is there a player who's better than Tab Ramos? That's a good question.
I'm gonna write that one down for next week.
Okay, you do that.
Best Latvian soccer. That's a good American soccer show topic.
It doesn't have to be Latvia. That's just the first country that came to mind. I would like to ask everybody to like this video. Definitely do that. Also subscribe to Morning Kickaround. I know we are still broadcasting in our first week. We're still broadcasting the Best Soccer Show channel as well. That'll probably stop next week. We'll probably go all Morning Kickaround channel. So if you want to join in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, then you need to be subscribed to the Morning Kickaround channel and obviously like other things there. If you have watched this show, then you know that we broke this up. We have different segments. We have long balls. We have Hot Topic. Today we did that final segment on
Memory
the
Hole.
Memory Hole, which is our first edition of the Memory Hole, if we're going to be pulling the curtain back a little bit. Each of those segments will be available as an individual video on the channel. So if you like any of them, or you just miss part of the show, you don't have to watch an hour-long video, or you don't have to go scrolling through. Maybe we set up chapters or whatever, but that'll be an easy way to participate in the show.
And I think it's good to add that we're going to expand the show as we go, as we get the kind of the wind beneath our wings. We have some more segments planned out and in mind that'll start popping up next week, and then eventually start adding guests and some interview elements to this. So I think that onward and upward. And got a viewer here. Don't really know why this popped up on my stream, but it's football. God bless America. Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Shout out to Rebel
sentiment
Rockstar. I'm glad the algorithm is working in our favor, throwing us up in front of this viewer, Rebel Rock, this guy. Thanks for being a random viewer. First of all, I mean, welcome, bienvenidos, all that. I can say football if you want me to say football. I'll do it. People will make fun of my accent or make fun of me trying to speak with an accent because I've been to Spain.
Yeah, he
Didn't-
foreign exchange student. I mean, he learned everything about Spain, and he's an expert. in it.
Foreign exchange student. I was a tourist. Get it right. They hated me while I was there because I was there adding to the millions of people that visit Spain in a given summer. Luckily, I didn't get shot with any water guns, though, so that's good. I
Yeah, I
came
think
out
I see-
unscathed.
I think I saw a BBC headline. The Spaniards were saying the American tourists were being invaded by American tourists. So
Yeah, invaded. I was an invader for 2 weeks in España. I'm gonna do it.
part-time invader. But well, with all that, thank you for tuning in. Morning Kick Around. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.
Bye bye.